So, good afternoon, ladies, and whoever else might be watching. Hopefully we've got technology working together for us today. It's never quite guaranteed in my world, and we might have a bit of glare from my camera, and I'm not too sure I can do much about it because it's a gloriously sunny day. Hello Anthony, thank you for joining us. As we're live, I'm just going to swap screens, and there we are. Now this might be a bit of a headache. I have no idea what I'm going to do to try and resolve the glare on this lot tonight. Let me just have a little fiddle and see if we can get it sorted out. It's just gloriously sunny here in the UK. So let me just see if I can angle that a little bit more. If I angle that and move that lot back, I might have a better I think that might be better. There we are, we had it all nicely set up, and then of course typical. So we are going to be doing a little bit of vintage effect medium tonight. Hi Penta, thank you for managing to cope with my daftness around things. So we're going to be having a play with this medium tonight, which is the vintage effect medium. Hopefully you can see that. It's a bit difficult, I think, because of the weather. It's so shiny and everything is reflecting off everything. So vintage effect medium, and we're going to be using the finishing waxes as well. I don't have my ring light on, Anthony. It is literally just the sun, and I've tried every which way I can. I've put my blinds down, but it's just coming through the window, I think is the honest answer. That's better. You can see what that one is there. So that's what we're going to be having a play with, and like everything I do in this world, I've got two different things we're going to be making, and this is because this is again a cream background, and I think the light is going to be a bit of an issue for us tonight. So I am starting thank you everyone for the heads up with some of the acrylic primer. So this is going to be a bit hi Judith. So we're going to start with the acrylic primer. Oh dear, I don't know really what I'm going to do with this. It's going to drive everyone mad. Maybe if I work on, no, it's definitely doing its own thing today. We're going to start out with some acrylic primer, and I'm just going, I work on the inside of this. It seems to be happier on the inside, so I'm just going to cover my box with a layer of acrylic primer, which will be a bit boring, I'm afraid. So I didn't have this problem when I go live at 10 o'clock in the morning, so I don't know what's going on. I think it has to do with where the light is. But welcome everyone to the madness of the UK's light. I literally have a balsa wood box here that I acquired in a well-known UK high street craft store, and I'm just going to prime it because I like to start with my surfaces primed, because I think you get a better end result by doing that, and it takes its own amount of time to do. So bear with me while we just carry on doing that. So Sylvie, thank you for your message. I don't have any light on at all in my craft room. This is literally just the UK sun coming through the window. I just can't do anything about the sunlight. I don't have any way of getting rid of it, I'm afraid, and it seems a pity to try and get rid of the sunlight when we have when we have so little of it and the weather is very unpredictable in the UK. So let me just carry on round here. Unless it goes behind a cloud, I think we might struggle with this point of view. Hi Carl, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I'm just going to decorate this box, and I really don't know what to what to do about the light. Literally all I'm doing at the moment is adding a layer of the acrylic primer from Pentacolor to my base of my piece, because I think that that's really important. And of course, did I pick a small piece to water? Did I? No, because why would you do that? You know, click on properties of your camera in OBS and adjust if you can. Now you might be asking me to do an awful lot. That will probably mean that I will mess up the live completely. I really don't know what to, because it doesn't make any sense to me, this technology, as most people know. It's not my favourite activity. I'm hoping that when I put some dark on here, which I'm going to do in a minute when I finish priming it, actually things will improve and it will be less of a problem with a dark surface. We can but try. Because otherwise it's all going to be a bit washed out. As I say, I have nothing, I don't have any extra light on in my room. Hello Barbara, thank you for joining us from Hungary. The live's going to be in English. I'm afraid I don't speak any other language. Shame on me, but I never did manage to master any languages at school. Though I did do a little bit of Latin. Not that that's the world's most use, I think, to people. So let me just carry on. And hopefully, once this layer is dry and we can swap from here, we might actually then be able to see, because white on white and sun is never a great option, and maybe I should have thought that one through beforehand, because I think if I try fiddling with OBS now to try and change my camera functions, I shall end up in a real pickle, and that does not take me very much effort, I have to say. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Should have mental note to self, pick a smaller box, but hey ho. Right, so we now have a layer of primer on there that we can let go dry, which is always good. The plus side of the weather in the UK at the moment is I don't think it's going to take very long for my primer to dry. So if I stand here, you can see my craft mat perfectly well. So I don't know whether, yeah, I really don't understand. It's not, that's not the problem. I think it is the glare on the white. So let's just clear the mess off my hands, because that's always a positive feature. And then we're going to add some of the chalky white. If I stand here and shade, you can see, apart from the shine, so we've got some blue chalky paint, and all I'm doing now I think is blocking out the sun, and as long as I don't fall over the stuff behind me and change the angle that I'm working at, and hopefully that will then allow us to work. So let me just give this a little quick dry, because it's still a bit wet before I add that, and I do want a nice dark colour underneath here. You see the black's working nicely, isn't it? So it's definitely not that. You can see my craft floor nicely, so it is, that's working. So I think it has to be the white that's reflecting, because the black is in focus and so is my craft mat, which is always helpful. So if I move that out to the side, that's better. That's, you can see how white that is, and that is just literally a layer of the acrylic primer. And there's a bit of mist. That's never good start, is it? There we are. Let's just cover that area, because I would quite ultimately like to use this piece There we are. So there we are. That's better. So all I've done is change my angle of working. So let me just flick that a little bit. That might be better. Cool. And carry on drying this. So, oh dear, oh dear. Well, the perils of lives are interesting. But at least we can see my base now. I think that's good. And that was my glasses falling on the floor. Fortunately, they have survived that. So I'm sorry about my camera in the camera holder being in the way of my face on screen. That's because I've moved my angle of working so that at least we can vaguely see what's going on. Cool. Let's pop the lid back on my acrylic primer, because as I say, I totally believe in having things primed to start with. And I'm going to add some of the Decor Paint Chalky as my colour, and I'm using the denim colour. So let me just add a layer of the denim paint. There we are, because I wanted a reasonably dark colour. And I'm using a sponge to apply this because it means that I don't get lots of marks on everything. And I avoid a lot of the brush marks. My wood is already reasonably textured, so let me just carry on round while we do this and get a nice layer of colour to colour that primer over everything. Turn that one around, and there we are. You can see we've got a beautiful, pretty denim blue here. I'm deliberately not painting the bottom of my box at the moment, but because I can stand it upright. But of course, in real life, I would definitely be covering all of the surfaces of my box, including the base of it. But for now, we will just carry on and give this all a very nice layer of my beautiful blue denim paint. I like using the chalky paints. They come in great sizes. You know, the 50mm are lovely for the ordinary acrylic matte paints, but I find for furniture upcycling or household storage items, it's sometimes better to have the bigger the bigger pots to use. I know that Pentacolor can sometimes be quite difficult to find in the UK, so it's stocked by a number of retailers, and a quick search of the internet will take you to them, I'm sure. So that's okay. So there we are. Just by it's amazing how standing and trying to block the light out is doing in terms of affecting the light. So there we are. Let's just pop that back over there. And of course, here we have an inside to paint to, and hopefully, again, by the time I have covered it all, we will be there. You can see why I like to use bigger pots, can't you, when you choose a project that is as big as this. Yes, I think we're going to settle down once we're not so much on a dark on that white background, and it will be the sun because of the glare from the lines. And I will have to think about maybe getting some ceiling lines, because I don't have any, because that would be the only way of having them. Thanks, Anthony. Yes, that's crafty. Do have them in as a range of products. So I'm going to end up with inky, messy, sticky fingers, which I do not like. I would rather have clean hands, but I do need to get a layer of paint over everything. So we will just bear with while we carry on painting. There's two options, aren't there, for lives? One is to have everything prepped within 0.5 millimetre of its life, and in which case this would take very little time to demo all of the steps that I'm going to use, or to create the whole project from scratch, you know, during the live. And it's always I think a difficult balance to know which is the best way forward, really, for some of, you know, for these options. But we can show you both the finishing waxes and the vintage effect paste on the same project if we are just patient and get everything covered nicely. So there we are. Now we've got two options for our top layer for our shabby effect, and the top layer is going to be the dominant layer on the outside. So we have a pale blue. Let me pick them up and then we'll see what people think. So this, you know, it's a pale blue or a pale grey for the top layer. So, and that will be the dominant colour on the outside. And so which do people think? Pale blue or pale grey for my top layer? Which would we like to see? Yeah, I don't know what to do about the sun. You know, it's such a pity, isn't it? At least with the blue paint in place, it's a bit better. You can see some parts of it, and I've changed my angle so I can block out water. You think pale grey? Excellent. Hello, Agnieszka. Thank you for joining us. Are you nipping in between at work, or have you managed to get the day off? I know it's never easy, is it, for people who work shifts, having done it for many, many years. Right, okie dokie. Pale grey. Lovely. So let me just pop that into there, and surprisingly the next bit now needs a good dry. We've got, so we can see, well, it might be difficult to see, but I can see, apart from the areas that I have missed, that actually the Deco Paint Chalky has covered in one go my surfaces, yeah, that was white. So let me just come around here and block out the sun as much as possible. That's better. And we can pick up some areas that are missed, but we'll go with that because it's not going to affect the overall appearance of the finished piece. Now then, but we do need this bit to be dry before we do our next thing, because otherwise it'll sink. The vintage effect is going to settle in. So you've got 2 days off, Agnieszka. Well, that's lovely. So you can have some nice time, and no doubt that means we will be seeing lots of your gorgeous makes, new makes on Facebook, because that normally means lots of productive crafting for you. See if I get this all dry, and that would be lovely. Really will be. Yeah, it's definitely better with me standing at this peculiar angle, so I do apologise. There we are. I can move over there, and you might be able to see better with what we're doing. And all of this lot. I do need to get this dry though, because otherwise when I take sandpaper to it later on, the layers that aren't dry are all going to lift off when I don't necessarily want them to. Be a look, but it's probably not the look I'm actually heading for. And now I can see, having turned it round, all sorts of areas that we have missed, which would be just right, wouldn't it? So let me just dry off that, pop that into there, and we'll fill in the areas that we missed because we were working back to front and upside down. Seems to be a trait that I like to do during lives. There we are. Yeah, it's definitely better, isn't it, with the thing. Now, fortunately, the inside doesn't actually have to be dry at this point in time for the next step of it. So I can pop that there, stick that in there. I've got a covering of everything. 2 days of non-stop crafting. Yeah, that will definitely be what's going on in Agnieszka's household, I'm sure, because that is her normal activity. Now, I don't mind getting paint on my hands, but I do like to have everything cleaned before I carry on with what's going on. So let me just get rid of the worst of that, because it will call for that, and I also don't want to transfer it, which is the next step. Now then, having got my shabby medium out, can I see what I've done with it? That'll be a big fat no. Oh dear. Oh, right, dropped it on the floor when I moved around, which is also never good, is it? So let's lift that. So this is the Shabby Effect medium. Yeah, the light's definitely better now that I'm going to apply. And the Shabby Effect medium is sort of almost like a liquid wax. It's not the same as the That's Crafty liquid acrylic wax. So I've not tried this technique with that, but I don't think it will work with it. But what this will do is it will make it easier to lift off our second layer. And I want this to have a shabby, distressed feel. So I'm literally going to paint this and let it trickle a bit on areas which I think might get a lot of wear and tear. So the top and the top side, we might add a little bit of shabbiness in some other areas. And all I'm doing really is adding a coat of this liquid wax around my piece, so that because it will make it easier for me to rub stuff off later on. There we are. So you can add this as much or as little as you want in as many areas as you want, and it is very, very liquid, as you can see, and it will dry reasonably quickly. Before I turn that round to do the rest of the sides, I will give this a quick dry, because I don't particularly want it trickling down the rest of my project. Hope you've got a through breeze today. Sarah Lou, I am not using my phone for the live, I am using it for commenting, so that's step number 1. We're battling with the light instead, which of course is always helpful. And I have got both doors open at each end of my conservatory, but there really isn't very much of a breeze outside. So am I hot? Yes. Does having a craft heat gun working make it hot? Yeah, it does. So yeah, but for the moment, so hopefully that is dry enough for when I turn this round. It's not going to puddle everywhere, because obviously having a multi-sided object means that I've got several sides to go. There we are. And you really don't need huge quantities of this to get there. So let's just pop a little bit here. It is driggling everywhere, which again, if I wasn't doing it live, I would just be patient and let it tackle it as I wanted it to, bit by bit, and let each different area dry, rather than it all trickling down, because I've got it at an angle for there we are. So there we are. So hopefully, I think we'll have another area sort of there. Right, let's give this another good dry, because that's what we need. So I need to have this all completely opaque, and once it's dry, it goes from this milky liquid, which is the consistency of proper milk, to and it will become clear, and the surface when you look at it will be slightly shiny. So but at the moment I just need to get it to dry. and patience is a virtue. I could do a facilis trick and see if we can manage the two-pronged approach to life, because we do have two heat. Well, it would help if we had the other one switched on. That bear in mind while I plug it in. There we are. So we can have the two-pronged approach to drying, and hopefully that will speed up the process. Hello Blanche, thank you for joining us this evening. There we are. Let's get this dried, rather than chasing the bits every which way, which is what is going to happen, I think, otherwise. But hey ho, it will all add to the effect, and it will make it easier for you to see what's going on afterwards. Now, of course, you could add extra embellishments to your box. You could, resin mould, some of the elastic art, wood, anything that's going to give you some texture. Let me just grab some of that little lot, because we might be here forever otherwise. And being here forever might not be exactly what we wish to be this evening. On a beautiful sunny day, it's always better to be able to relax, isn't it, rather than being necessarily cooped up indoors, though some of you, I'm sure, will be watching on mobile devices rather than tucked up, inside. So as I say, this is it's like a wax. It provides a resist. So once it's dry, and there is no point in carrying on until it has gone completely dry, otherwise we'll have an inordinate mess as I add the next layer. So we can still see what's going on. There we are, we're getting there. That's reasonably dry, and some of this is because I put it on wet stuff on the table. There we are. Disadvantages of being outside is there's no craft supplies. You can always take them outside with you, Agnieszka. I know that might defeat the purpose of you having had, gone to the effort of having your room all done. Right, so the vote was for pale grey. So let us see whether today is going to be nice, and whether we're going to cover with one coat or whether we're going to cover with two. So having let the Vintage Effect medium dry, all I'm literally going to do now is paint over the top of my dark blue with a reasonable layer of the pale grey. Now I can see, though you might not be able to, that it's pilling where the wax was. There we are, so let's just pop that onto that. I'm going to give that side a little quick blast, and then I'm going to turn it round. See, we're back with a pale colour. It's a mistake, isn't it? Because the dark colour is showing beautifully, but the paler colour is glaring badly. And I don't really wish to order rain for rice, because we don't get enough sun in the northwest as it is. There we are. So we'll pop that over there, and we'll just add another layer. Work our way around our box, because that's the problem with boxes, isn't it? They've got multiple sides. Let me just tuck that over. That's reasonably dry. So let's pop that over there. And as you can see, you don't need to be so precise. I do want it to be covered, and although I am going to be sanding it back, I would rather have a decent layer over to start with, and so that, because I'm taking a very pale colour over a darker colour, I may well need to have more than one layer of my paint to do that. Let me turn this round. There we are. So we might need to add a couple of layers for this. Patience is a virtue. It's not my middle name, I have to say, but there we are. Right, excellent. So we have a layer over everything. Let's just give that a quick blast and see if we can it is definitely, it's the pale colours that are glaring. So mental note for yourself, don't choose pale colours for the lives. And I am going to add a second layer to this, so apologies for the needing to do this on repeatedly, but that's what's needed to get the best result, and there's no point in demonstrating a half result. Hi Liz, thank you for joining us. The Mancunian sun is causing havoc this evening. It likes dark, it doesn't like pale. It's really not very helpful at all. So if I shade that here, you can see, I think, with me like this, where we've got an area where the paint's resisting. That's where I applied the liquid wax and the proper paint there. So that's, let me just turn that round, just without that. And again here, I can see the two different areas. So let me add, because I know I haven't got a smooth coverage yet. I've got an area there I completely missed. So let me just add another layer over this lot. To get this to cover properly, because it's important for the final result to have a nice layer, and then we'll get good contrast. Now you could actually do this technique but layer several different colours with adding wax in between to have almost a rainbow effect for your finished piece as you rub back your colours. But I think one colour layer is enough for me for today. But as I say, the rainbow effect is lovely when you do it with several layers, adding wax in different areas each time, between your layers as you go. There we are. Okay. Let me give that a whiz dry. And then we can carry on over to the other side. There we are. Let me put myself back in screen as opposed to my head, because that's always not helpful. It is very, very sunny, Liz. We shouldn't knock it because, you know, we don't get enough sun really in the UK, do we? So I do think it's helpful to, you know, to not have too much. But there are some things that sunlight is clearly not good for. And roof blinds I don't have. You can see, you know, you can see perfectly well the blue colour. So it is the white that is, or the pale grey, that is causing me the problems tonight. We will master it eventually. At least I've managed to go live in the correct place this time, which is more than last time, you know, where we struggled to go live at all on the Pentacolor page, and ended up going live on my own page. So we are making progress for people, you know, and I can manage it perfectly well in other groups. but I do think tonight would have been a struggle wherever we are. So there we are. So that's that one. Let's pop the lid on that paint so it doesn't go very thick, because it will thicken if we're not very careful. And give this a dry. Hello Pip, welcome to my second live for Pentart. I trust that all is well in Canada. I haven't seen you go live for ages, so it's nice to see you here. And I trust that Mum and Dad are okay. As they are. Hi Kim, I don't think I've recognised or have managed to say hello to you. So yeah, we're getting there. Right, now we have our box, and I have some wet and dry sandpaper here. It's 1200 grit. Okay, so, and I'm using wet and dry because, and some water because it's wet and dry, because it helps limit the amount of dust you get. Now normally if you try to sand back acrylic paints, it takes an awful lot of effort, but we will see that the shabby medium is going to, which I've parked in lots of strategic places, is going to make my life much easier. And because I've got the water, it'll be difficult for you to see until I lift some of the residue and the dust off. So I really have given that very little pressure. On my dryish paint. There we are. Now that is good. Let me have a, yeah, so if I put my hand here, you can see up here I've no longer got a solid blue where it's shaded. Let me see if that works. It is going to be difficult, isn't it? So there we are. And I can wipe this back. So I've now got almost a shabby lime washed effect. Let's see if I can carry on and see if we can eventually get there by moving it out of the sun's way. The white is definitely being a problem, I think, or the pale grey, but I don't think it would have mattered even if we picked the, so there we are. There, that's better. So you can see I've got streaks of the blue in with the pale grey, and that's what the shabby effect medium has allowed me to do relatively easily. So let us carry on. As I say, we've got a generous amount of shabby medium everywhere. It didn't just stay at the top, it all trickled down, and that's fine because nature really does do, you know, does her own thing, doesn't she? So let's just give this a good rub. As I say, I've got wet and dry sandpaper here, so I'm picking up and getting a slurry of excess paint as I rub it off. So there we are. But if you try to do that with just, you know, with normal acrylic paint without the shabby medium in, it causes no end of havoc. There. yeah, that's, so we can see I've got the two-toned effect by shading this all the way around. And perhaps I should have picked darker colours from this. So we've got one more area that we need to do. And it's definitely easier. So I no longer have a grey box. I've got a box that has got my blue of my base colour, and there we go. If I put that there, blue of my base colour, and then my grey on top there. That's, yeah, if I hold myself at an awkward angle, that's the effect that we've got, because we've got the shade from my arm showing you the results of the shabby medium. And as I say, I don't think you can do that very easily with other mediums. It just makes life so much easier. So what else have we got? Well, at this stage, I mean, I would certainly want the whole of it to be the same. So let me just give this top a little wipe, because I didn't put any some of the shabby medium will have gone onto here, but let me just even that up a little bit by going round. And I was going to use a white finishing wax on the inside, which will seal and protect it. I've also got the transparent, and I think if I use the transparent, because it's transparent, you certainly will see nothing. So this is the finishing wax, comes in clear, so you can use that for sealing any of your wooden surfaces and giving them a semi-waterproof varnish. If we think about the way prior to spray polishes, everyone in the UK used beeswax, didn't they, for polishing their wood. It's a similar sort of process, but this smells really pleasant, almost coconutty, and it's I've picked up the white one intentionally because it's going to mute this blue down and give it a different shade. If I do it in the bottom, hopefully, and I might just do it in two areas and then wipe it back so that you can actually see the difference, because tucked down here we certainly can see that there's a difference in what's going on, and I think that's partly because it's it's semi-shaded. So that all I'm doing is I've got one of the a natural bristle brush here rather than a decent paintbrush, because I'm using a wax, and obviously they're difficult to take out unless of course you use a solvent, which will take it out. So we're just going to spread this about quite happily. I'll pop it over on the top. And I think that what I will do at the end, after all of this, is I will photograph it, and I will put the proper finished results up on my page, probably tomorrow rather than necessarily tonight, because I think I will wait until I've got better conditions for photographing, because I think we might end up with some similar sorts of issues with that. So here you can see literally I have just rubbed into all of the texture of my wood the finishing wax, and now I'm going to wipe it back, and I think you will then see what the differences are between the different the two areas. Let me just, and I think part of this will be we're still not quite fully dry with our paint, but hey ho. There we are. Let's just wipe some of this back, and it will even out. So you can see I've got my plain unwaxed painted surface, and then I've got my waxed surface, so it creates definitely a different texture to what you're doing. Now if you don't like the effect, you can take some of the transparent wax and then lift it all off. But if you're wanting a sort of summer beach washed out driftwoody feel, then actually I think that the white wax will do that quite nicely for you from here. So let's just pop that into there, and you, of course, you know, it will settle in the corners that are difficult to get to, because that's a natural process. So I think just wipe that area. So here you can see that I've got the two different untreated surface here and my treated surface over here, showing that actually it converts from a plain mat into this shabby appearance. So let me just carry on and do the rest of my box. And I can see I've still got some wet paint in that corner, so we won't move that around because that's also, oh good, that's the brush falling apart, which is also not very helpful. So there we are. Let's just carry on. I've got one more of this type of brush, but it's got brown wax on it, so I don't really want to go picking up the brown wax and adding it to this, because we will have an inordinate mess at this point if I go anywhere near it with the brown wax. But we will even up this surface. And if you think I'm being generous with what I'm putting on, I am. But my pot of varnish did all of my show samples of Penta the other day, and another 10 or 12 projects in preparation, you know, as studio samples. And I've had it for other projects over the period of a year, and I've still got probably 3/4 of my tin. So it will go a long way. If you think that you might want to, you know, maybe do a whole Welsh dresser, then that's what it will do. I think it's a lovely effect, Sarah Lou. You know, it's just different, isn't it? I think I'm upset that you can't see necessarily the shabby effect of the shabby medium or the vintage effect medium very well, and I think that is the light issues we're having, but that will show up nicely on the photographs. Hello Sonia. So there we are. Sticky icky messy. You could just use a damp cloth. You don't need to go through the you know, a lot of your baby wipes. And then you can take this back as far or as little as you want to the effect that you want. So I think it's still a bit dark compared to the rest of it. It's always going to be an uneven surface. So yeah. So that those are two effects that I wanted to show how we did today. Now at this point, oh dear, you can see it, like, yeah, at this angle, the differences in the colour. So we've got a lime washed effect on the outside. Let me just pop, yeah, like that. So lots of different flecks of dark and light. Ah, there we are, two. Shade it completely. So we've got, you know, a good mix of shades of the grey, different depths of the grey, and the blue poking, you know, peeping its way through from behind. And that was possible because of the vintage effect medium, which I love to use because it just makes that rub back so much easier than it is if you are trying to do it without. There we are. And then inside we've got our natural wax finish. Now I have to say that if I do this outside surface can also be protected, and to protect it I would use just the clear wax, finishing wax, but you don't need to see me repeat that process on the outside as to you know, as I've done on the inside. So hopefully we now understand, or I've shown you with difficulty courtesy of the camera and the lights, what the shabby effect medium or vintage effect medium does, it really just allows you to wipe back that excess colour in a way that is easier than just taking a piece of sandpaper to it on its own, and you get this two colour sort of almost washed effect with the different layers, and it highlights all of the texture in your wood if that's what you're using. And then we have the wax finish on the surface on the inside that again gives it a more sun bleached effect, and again it's gone into all of the surfaces. So those are the effects that I wanted to show you today. I've now got a very nice box, and I will photograph it when I can get some better lights for photographing than we have currently, and I will as I say, it's quite a big box, so I will photograph it and then put a picture of it up on my own page. So if anyone's got any questions, then please feel free to ask now, otherwise I shall end the live. I'll give you a few minutes. So all I want to do now is wish everyone a safe night. I hope that it's not too hot and stuffy. Good night, stay safe, and see you soon.